We are in an information age, and yet at the same time, society by and large has not gotten smarter. So that tells us what I've been saying for a while, that more information does not make you smarter, doesn't make you even better at what you do. I mean, if we even just look at the top business corporation founders that we see, how many of them actually have a degree or whatever in business? Many of them don't. Many of the ones that we talk about that most people actually know and would be able to identify their picture or whatever, many of them don't come from that background. So it's not just information alone. But at the same time, I find that that's what many of us are seeking, spending so many hours online, going through trying to find, all the different YouTube videos, read all the posts or books, downloading all the free ebooks and things like that, which none of these things are bad. But people think just from consuming content that they're just going to become something. And I just disagree with that. And what I've seen is, even though we have so much information, it's concentrated on very basic, substandard, regurgitated, repeated. You can find it anywhere. And, just take what you hear from, about maybe the most popular herbs and the things that people say about them. You'll notice that it's always the same thing over and over and over. And if you are going through the cycle of just consuming, you'll find out very quickly that there's a limit, very limited amount of actual substantial content. People are focused on things that don't matter. And that's probably the biggest thing that I see. And I call it out simply because I was there at one point too. And I just want to help people to get through those hurdles quicker than I did myself. So when I first started studying, that was a decade or more ago, whatever. And there wasn't that much content or things as there is now. And so there's many people, with Chat GPT or whatever that can, jazz up different posts or different things like that. And, they think because they've watched a lot of videos and imitated what they've seen that they are. And I'm not trying to say someone's not an herbalist, but I think it gives an illusion of knowing more than one does. And no one knows everything, right? But there's a difference between having information and having actual wisdom and understanding of that information. And I feel like a lot of times people think that because they have it, that's all that they need. So if you have realized what I realized a long time ago, that there's a really big void, and there's much more important things that nobody ever talks about. And it's probably because we just tend to, and I always say we, lump in myself, but it's typical to just, because we go to school, we get taught what's important, what's not. We get told these different things. And even in school, we learn lots of information, but most of that is not even useful for what we're going to do later in life. Even in college, you still have to take filler classes. Why are things like that? And so whenever you're going through this information, you really got to sift through it to actually get to something that's going to be helpful for you. And so, as you see, my content is not very popular or sought after at all, because it's not the fun thing, it's not the glamorous thing, and it's not the quick thing, which is what people seek. So, said all that to say, if you want to actually get wisdom and understanding about the whole herbalism field journey, then I'm going to be sharing, the resources that I've made to kind of help people maneuver so that they don't have to go through the same mistakes and different things that I did. So I'm going to be going back and forth between just talking to you guys candidly like this, and then also sharing my screen, because the resource that I want to share, and you've probably heard me talk about it, but I'm going to give you more of an inside look and peek at it today, is my book, Herbal Holistic Healing. So this actually, I wouldn't say this is probably my second most popular, and it's probably only the second most popular simply because of the price. It's a barrier to those who are serious, really want to get to the next level, and those who are, okay where they're at. Which, as you can see, it's thick. It's all of the different years compiled in here. And I really wanted to make this book, like many of my others, very conversational, very easy to understand, very easy to absorb, pretty much like a conversation how I would talk to anyone if I am teaching them anything. So I'm going to show you an inside look at it. So let me go ahead and share. And let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to break down the different things that are in here, show you examples of what's in here as well, why all of these things are important, and how they differ from everything else that you have seen and heard. All right, so that's what it looks like there. I think that was a hardcover. Again, it's Herbal Holistic Healing, African Herbalism for Modern Times. So I'm going to show you, and it's multiple pages to show you the table of contents, because there's a lot inside of it. So I start off with a prologue. Then there is a section talking about me and my journey to actually get here, pretty much for those who say, how did you get started on your journey? And that's what details and explains it from birth, how I evolved, I guess, to get here, and how all of it is a part of the journey, right? And many people, I think, will be able to identify with that. I talk about a lot of different things. So why do you even want to use herbs in the first place? Why is it something that you should even study? Most people probably don't need to be swayed if they're purchasing this book. They obviously care about herbs, but it's just that dialogue, getting people to think, and really just sharing my thoughts on how I feel the world looks at herbs is more secondary, alternative medicine, as they call it. And so I take time to really work on, the mindset. That's a key word that's used a lot. But I think that is something that's lacking when it comes to herbalism. People don't know how to even think or how to apply the information as one should. So they know these different things, but they don't know how it actually applies to situations other than what they've learned, heard, or memorized. And so I always say, take all the tools away. Take all your favorite plants away. Take your apothecary away. Are you still going to be able to be an herbalist and practice without those things? I feel like because we have so much information, because we have access to any and every herb that we want, basically, that it has become a crutch for us. And so, as I said, just as it hasn't made a wiser society, it hasn't made better herbalists either. And so I kind of talk about that and kind of share my thoughts and show and try to retrain our brains to think more in a natural, holistic light than the one and the way that we've been reared up since birth and been enforced in us, and what's even the word? The one that we've assimilated to or been indoctrinated in. So we have to really get rid of that old thinking and get a new way of thinking. And so that's why I say it's African herbalism. We're going back to our ancestral roots, but we're doing it in a modern way. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about side effects, herb and drug interactions, and just explaining them so that it's really easy to understand why they happen, what are the most common interactions that you'll see, and so you'll be able to know, okay, what are the possible contraindications in any given time or any given person situation. You'll be able to think, think like an herbalist. So I go through even about your pantry, building the different essentials, the different tools and things that you need. So I'm really going on a journey so that beginner, intermediate, and advanced can all use this book and reference it time and time again. My books, I still reference them all the time, whether it's recipes or going back to different parts of it as well. So this book actually birthed out of me wanting to make a study guide for my holistic herbalist course, but also it came from years of me collecting notes and making different methods and all of those different things, compiling it. So it's pretty much like my whole blueprint or guide in a book. All right. So we talk about the organs, and I do a quick reference in the front of the book. And I'm going to show you guys what those look like. So it's just a page on each of the different organ systems and the different herbs associated with them, the different actions, etc. So that's for when you are actually, practicing and you're making recipes and things like that, and you just need a quick refresh, like you need to jog your brain. You can do that. But then I have sections where I go into them more in detail. I do talk about herbal energetics and explain them, and I really feel like I explain not only the energetics of people, but also the plants as well. Most of the time it's talking about the plants, but I talk about the people as well. Talk a little bit about African American herbalism as well. So, and then starting your apothecary from sourcing herbs. Where do you want to find herbs? How do you dry them? How do you store them? How do you organize your apothecary? What remedies do I think you need to have ready to use and on hand? So I really delve into every single thing. So you have me holding your hand, guiding you through it. So this is what an example what it looks like. I have multiple methods that I've made now. I have one called my 4 levels of safety. So I explain that in my herb and drug interactions section. I also, here's a little bit about some of the essentials that you may need. This book differs from a lot of the books that came before it in that it's more text heavy. It does have picture color images as well. So even with the 514 pages, there is hundreds of different images and photos and things as well, but it is more text heavy in a lot of areas. Then I go into herbal preparations and I give recipes. So there are 75 plus recipes in here. But of course, it's not just about making my recipes. Yeah, I encourage you to try them. Many people enjoy them, etc. But don't you also want to know how you can go about making your own recipes for yourself? How you also later on, I show you how to make your own, formulas and protocols or programs for clients. So we'll show you how to make your own recipes, and then I'll show you how to make your own programs as well for those that you want to help. All right, so we talk about tea, and I share my TEA method, which works for all the different preparations. Sun teas, tinctures, extracts, herb-infused honey, oxymelts, herbal syrup, herb butter, sea moss gel, bone broth, infused oil, capsules and powders. And then I have external use as well. Mouthwash, herbal steams, vaginal steams, soaps and scrubs, sleep pillow, potpourri, salve, so you can see, and the list goes on and on and on. And what I find also is that many herbalists don't utilize the external use preparations nearly as much. And I think it's simply because it's not talked about, so they just don't know about it. And there's just so many other ways other than taking things internally that you can do. And so that's what I'm getting more into now, is focusing on some of the I don't want to say non-generic, but I guess challenging herbalists more. And what I mean by this is not always going for the easy answer, but digging deeper. And that's how you can make it more holistic, by looking at the lifestyle approach as well. Looking at all different aspects of the person, and not just thinking, taking a tea for this or taking a tincture for it, and thinking that you've addressed the problem. There's so much more to it than that. And it doesn't always have to be taking things internally or that type of intervention. As I said, it can be simple as doing things to the outside of the body as well. So that's what I'm getting more into, trying to help people to see. Because as you start working with more and more people, you'll realize that there are more and more boundaries or different things that you'll have to maneuver through. Some people are not going to be able to, and I've worked with many people who are not even able to take things internally because they're on a tube or different things like that. And so what do you do in that instance? And many, as I said, many people just don't know because I guess they haven't been put in these situations. So you don't learn what you don't know until you realize that you don't know it. And so I try to give people that information proactively so they don't find themselves in those situations, if that makes sense. All right, back to it. What else do I talk about? I talk about the garden as well, how to grow, children in the garden, purchasing seeds, saving seeds, organic pest control, pruning plants, when to harvest, curing plants as well. And then I also talk about water bath and pressure canning. Those is pretty much giving you the whole, as I said, the whole blueprint on how you can do pretty much every part of what herbalism entails. Talk about foraging as well. Have the herbal first aid kit in there. Talk about sustainability. Talk about essential oils. This is an example of some of the recipes. Now, I did cover up the recipes because I know people aren't always honest. And so if I put them up here, I know a lot of people will be trying to copy or different things like that. If you want the recipes, you know where to find them. But these are just some examples. I have what I call my fruit tea. I have my morning cup of cola. I have my chocolate milk. I have rose gold. And as I said, I have 75 plus recipes in here. All different types of things, not just teas as well. Syrups, oxymels, etc. All right. So once we get past all the different recipes, and I feel like I did put a lot of the fun stuff in the front of the book, but then you'll get to more of the middle and the end when you're looking at more advanced. So it's going with you in an organic way, starting at the more beginner concepts. And as you master those, you continue to go through it. So I have the herbal reference. And as you can see, each of the sections are very large. And so what I did is I have my 4-step journey. It goes from the kitchen to the garden to the forest to abroad. And so I broke the reference up in that way. And so the 4 levels of safety goes and coincides with the 4-step journey, and they intertwine. So it just makes sure that your journey as an herbalist is one that happens just naturally, gradually, safely, but also still effectively. Okay, so as you can see, the reference starts on 168, and then it ends on 318. So the reference is big. It has 150 plus plants. Okay, some plants, and I'll show a little bit. Let's see some pages here, a little bit in it. So I like to have multiple images whenever possible, and I like to show things like seeds or the flowers, the roots, the different parts of the plant. I'm gonna show myself. So the only thing is it's a bit hard because 1, it's reversed when I show it to the camera, and 2, it's hard to make out what some parts may have. But this is a good example that I just flipped to. This is nettle. So this is stinging nettle. Both pages are about nettle. That's one of the things that I really wanted to put a lot of information about the plants, and not just, a paragraph. I don't want it black and white. I wanted to have images so you can see what the nettle root looks like. You can see what the nettle looks like when it's flowering, different things like that. So I like to show the progression of the plants as well. Now, there are some that I didn't talk about as much. So then, like in the garden section, I had one where you can just, it's a bunch of different plants. Oops, it's hard to see. It's a bunch of different plants that you'll find in the backyard, and I just gave a little bit about them. And so those are in there as well, other than the ones that I also named. Let's see. Here's another example. This is lemon balm that I talked about. Those pages are both lemon balm. Here is comfrey, and it goes from this page to the next page as well. So here's dandelion. As you can see, dandelion starts here, continues this whole page. So there's a bunch of sections like that where you'll find where I gave, a lot of information on some of these herbs. Ginger as well. Ginger starts here, and it does continue this whole page as well. So cilantro. That's one of my favorite herbs. I talked about it for quite a while as well. So that's something that you're getting. You're getting something that's much more in depth. And I made it very easy to get. So they're all set up the same way, where it has the name of the plant, it has the Latin name. Then I also include the family and the common names. And also, if it has like an African or more ancient name as well, that's important. And I talked about that in here as well. The importance of calling things by their, their name, and not just something like their nickname that's a name that they've gotten recently. It helps you connect to the plant more when you're calling it by its actual name, right? The actions, the parts used, the organ affinity, the energetics, and I explain the organ affinity, the different things like that. Also, I'll talk about colors in here and their importance. And so I have each of the herbs listed there, really easy for you to reference as well. So let's go back. This is the quick reference I was telling you about, where it's just a one page, very easy and simple on each of the different organ systems. But of course, I have chapters on each of the on each of these. I do have recipes and different things like that. And so it's several pages, and you'll see that as well. Did I skip it? Let's see. Oh, it was here on this page. So you can see the herbs here. I have a list of herbs listed by organ affinity. So if you are looking just for certain things, like you're looking just for the kidneys, we have the section on there. Just for the woman's reproductive system, we have it on there, and you can find all of it just in that section. And then we also have a quick reference where you can see the herbs listed just by their actions as well. And that in itself is just 16 pages. And then also you can look by illness. Now that's one of the things, and I did preferences that I preferred people not to look at in that place. And what I did was I listed the different illnesses, and I talked about some of the herbs, but I also told you where else you can read more about it. So I told you what chapter to look at, what actions to look at, and different things like that. So I'm all about not giving people easy answers. If you've been to one of my classes, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll help walk someone through getting the answer on their own. A lot of times that's one of the things that herbalists kind of can struggle with, is just always wanting to hold their instructor's hand. And so sometimes it's like, no, you need to leave the nest. And so that's one of the things that I do. I'm always all about not giving you the easy answer. I'll walk you through how to make sense of it, so that not only are you getting an answer for today, you're getting an answer for the future problems that you'll have, because you'll know how to actually the process of actually getting answers. You'll know the questions that you need to think and ask yourself to be able to work through the problem. So that's one of the things that we don't really learn how to do either, is how to problem solve when something is a little bit different than how it was presented to us. Just throwing one little curveball in there can really throw people up. And so it really trip people up. So I focus more on showing you how I do different things, why I do different things. And so you can take that information, you'll be able to apply that to any situation. I don't want people to have to rely on me. And when you become a teacher as well, you don't want people to always have to rely on you. What happens when you're no longer here, right? So you want to make sure that we're actually teaching people and creating a legacy with what we do. So we're doing things and we're being intentional. And we don't want people to be dependent on us, as people mostly come from the dependency on modern medicine. We want to make sure that herbal medicine looks different. All right, let's see what else is inside. Talked about these. Then I also have a section on, as I said, recipe building. So how do you actually build different recipes? Now, what I do is, even though I have my own method, my TDA method that I explain, I share other methods. Why do I do this? Because you need to find what works for you. It's not about, this is my teacher taught me this way, and so I do this way. No, you need to find what works for you, because you're ultimately going to be the one building the recipes. And so you need to make sure that whatever you do makes sense to you and you understand why you're doing it that way. And as you continue to do it more and more and more, you'll become more efficient and you'll come up with better ways of doing things as well. So I never want people to be in a box. I never want people to be pigeonholed to anything. So I always give multiple different ways to do things. Even when I talk about tinctures, I talk about the folk method, which is what I like, but also is share information about being able to standardize your dosage. Why? Because everyone does not want to do things the way that I do them. And things that may make sense to me may not make sense to someone else. And so that's why we do it, multiple methods, and you find what works for you. I feel like a lot of herbalists kind of use the same kind of methods just because they think that that's what they're supposed to do. And I feel like there's no rules, there's no supposed to on pretty much anything. Okay, so I digress on that. We also have my elimination system in here. I have just a little bit of definitions in here as well for the biological definitions, so like more biology. And then I have herbal terminology as well, explaining different things that you may have seen in the book. Depending on where you are in the book, it may be explained for you. And a lot of times I did try to explain things multiple times so that you didn't have to go to the glossary. But if you do need that, that is there as well. We also have a Latin to English and English to Latin index. And so it is beneficial to use the Latin name just because herbalists everywhere will be able to identify the herbs by that name. So it's important to know. I think it's also important, as I said, to learn those ancient names as well. But the Latin names is what you'll see really commonly, especially, you know, with Western herbalists, because that's the system that they made. So you'll find that they used it. I also talk about suppliers. I have the list of suppliers, some additional resources, and then I have my index as well. And that is what you will find in here. I have a section on self-care as well. There's a lot in here. I have conversion charts as well. So I really tried to make it, I really tried to make sure every single question that you have, you'll be able to get the answer or learn how to get the answer on your own as well. So the organ systems, I didn't talk about them. So let's just go through them. The cardiovascular system, so that'd be the heart, the veins, the blood vessels, the nervous system. So we have the brain, the nerve, spinal cord, the musculoskeletal system. So that's our muscles and bones. We have our respiratory system. So that's with, you know, like our lungs for our breathing. Liver and gallbladder, self-explanatory. Our urinary system, which is our bladders, our bladder, and the kidneys, which is the kidneys, the men's reproductive system, and the woman's reproductive system. I feel like that, and I keep making a lot of noise. I'm sorry. I feel like those are self-explanatory as well. We have the stomach, the pancreas, and spleen. That is in one section. And so I also talk about like diabetes and different things like that. So in each of these sections, I talk about the organs, or I guess we'll say organs, or what's the word I'm trying to go for? Organs or body parts associated with each of the systems. And then we break down the different disorders and talk about the different actions, talk about the different herbs, recipes, etc. So it's very comprehensive. Some of them are longer than others as well. I was trying to see, like, I know on the cardiovascular system, that one was 9 pages. So you can see about how long. The nervous system was 8 pages. So I did, make them as thorough, but there's some that I love to talk about more, and I just had more to share. So like the women's reproductive system, that one's 13 pages. All right. So herbs for the colon. We have our endocrine system, which includes a lot of different organs and parts. Some that have their own chapter, like one being the thyroid gland, our lymphatic system, and herbs for the skin. And then virus proof your health is the immune section, the immune system section. So I talked about that, and I talked about fevers as well. All right. I talked about, there's other things I didn't really mention, like plant families. I also have a little section in here talking about herb journals, and then I give you my herb profile. And I did say that it's fine for you to go ahead and print those to be able to use to make your own herb journal if that's what you wish. I also have my own herb journal that I will, can send to you printed as well. So you have that option. As I said, I really tried to put every single thing in here that you need, even the books that I recommend. dosage guidelines. So how do you actually choose your dosage? That's a big thing, a big question a lot of people have. Herbs for children and pregnant women, and also the essential oils as well. So I go through a lot. I try to explain and answer every single question. The other thing I talk about is plant families. That's something that's really unique to me. I've never heard anyone speak about them, really study them intensively, or advocate for learning about plant families. And so as an herbalist, I feel like it's so important to focus on not just the small thing, but dig deeper and to think of things in a system, right? We talk about equilibrium, everything coming into balance, thinking more of systems and how we are parts of systems, right? So even just the earth that we're on, right? The solar system, so it's just, we're smaller parts of different things, and understanding the natural balance and order and pattern of all these different things can be really helpful. So I did a lot of talking, but I hope that you see exactly why I teach the way I do, what I teach, where you can find more information on it, right? If you so desire. And just understand more of, where I am coming from, and what my hope for all of you is, not just to take away a nice tip, right? Or a nice fact, a fun fact, or whatever, but to actually come away with tools, right? To give you actual resources, to give you knowledge that will help you on your journey. So that's what our goal is. Our goal is, as Yaz Apothecary, as the founder of Yaz Apothecary, our larger goal is empowering herbalists to think outside of the box, to really intently think like an herbalist, and not just do the things that herbalists do, but actually think like one and embody herbalism just from the heart and the soul. And it just naturally becomes a part of you. And not only that, our communities are often in food deserts. We have whatever negative statistic it is, health statistic, we're always at the top of it. So we desperately need something different. We definitely need a radically different approach. And so I know that I can't do it all on my own. I don't want to keep all of the knowledge or whatever to myself. What I want to do is share it with all of you, so that you can go out and you can help your communities, and we can build stronger communities that way, one herbalist at a time. So it's not just about, having cute apothecaries, right? Or making cute videos and different things like that. I want to hopefully encourage and empower other herbalists that are coming, so that they don't have to make the same mistakes that I did, that they can get further quicker, and do so confidently. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.